And welcome back to another Sunday night edition of the Roundtable here on the OHIO podcast. I'm your host, Buckeye Boggs, aka the Podfather. We're glad to have all of you with us this evening here for our show. We are the official Ohio State podcast of Fansided and Scarlet and Game. If you do not like the way my face looks, don't worry, neither does my ex-wife. You can listen to us wherever you download your podcasts or over at fansidedscarletandgame.com. We are also the official Ohio State podcast of The College Huddle. Head on over to The College Huddle, where you can find us and 85 other of our closest friends from coast to coast covering their schools of choice, just like we do Ohio State. Don't forget, the second edition of the OHIO podcast, Ohio State Football Season Preview Magazine, is available for you. Head on over to our website, theohiopodcast.com. Click on the magazine link. You can get yourself a digital copy right there, everybody. We would appreciate it if you did. We are joined tonight by my co-host, the Wild Man himself, Chris Wilds, and the man who needs no introduction. He is the GOAT of the beat. That, my friends, is Doug Lesmerises from Kings of the North. Doug, welcome into the OHIO podcast.
Guys, thanks for having me. You're too kind. I'm excited to be here. I appreciate the invitation and ready to chop it up about the Buckeyes, man. I'm excited.
Indeed, indeed. Now, Chris, it looks like you're wearing something kind of different there tonight. What you got, buddy?
Yeah, now available on our website, we have the official cartoon Eric and Wildman OHIO podcast t-shirts.
Which one's me?
Well, it's not the one with gray hair.
Are you sure about that? Oh my gosh, that's too funny, guys. You can go over and purchase those from the store, theohiopodcast.com. Click on the store link. You can help keep Chris employed, my friends. Help keep him employed this evening. All right, Doug. Everybody knows who you are, but go ahead and plug yourself, your show, and everything you do, brother.
Yeah, so I'm the co-host of Kings of the North, along with the great Bill Landis. We cover Northern college football, but we also, along the way, have done our Kings of Columbus podcast, where we focus on the Buckeyes on that, and that's been on hiatus. But I would just say, stay tuned. Stay tuned for Doug and Bill's specific Ohio State content. I would say stay tuned. We might have some things to announce about that pretty shortly. So yeah, so we love doing what we do, and the experience of you guys, obviously just seeing your people in their chat right now and things like that. The connection that I've been doing this for 2 decades now, covering Ohio State, and what you're able to do on YouTube shows and podcasts and interact with fans and understand fans and relate to fans and use fans as producers for your shows and as live focus groups, and to really get in the hearts and minds of fans. This is such a great outlet for that. And so I love doing that on Kings of the North, but I love that you guys do this on a daily basis here, and that on a weekly basis here, and that so many other people do this now, because I think the most underserved, the most undercovered demographic in college football is the fans. I think there's a lot of coverage that is coach-centric. I think there's a lot of coverage that is player-centric, and they put their brains and bodies on the lines. But without the fans, like, none of this is possible, which is why I get mad when Kirk Herbstreit yells at the fans and stuff. It's like, why are you admonishing people for being passionate about the thing that employs you? So anyway, thanks for having me.
Yes, boy, we are off to a good start because, Kirk and us, we've gone around a little bit, but
yeah,
Doug, I was talking with Doug before we started, and I was a lover of Buckeye Talk back in the day when these guys, Doug and Ari and Bill, were a part of the Cleveland Plain Dealer and doing that podcast. And that's when I fell in love with podcasts. It was, you guys were the one that I could not wait. And then you guys started producing more, and that's how I fell in love. And I'll be honest, the OHIO podcast was born out of Buckeye Talk. You guys inspired inspired this podcast that we started back in 2019. And here we are, 2025. And you're on the show as our guest, and I just gotta let you know, dude, you've been an inspiration, man. I really appreciate you.
Well, that's too kind, and what you guys clearly have a handle on, and we tried to have a handle on always, is sports is supposed to be fun. Life is hard. Sports is fun. So, for instance, I don't know that there's a ton of people who got into college football for the lawsuits, or people who are like, I love about college football? My God, let's just dig into the financials. You know what? I love spreadsheets, man. And there's nothing I love more than talking spreadsheets through college football. And I can feel national media, corporate media sometimes just like, of course that matters. But it matters in how it affects the games on Saturday. It matters in how it affects the fans. It matters in how it affects how the players are treated fairly and that kind of thing. But man, can't you guys feel it sometimes that it's not fun? That forget the fun. And I think the harder, and we all have gray hair here. We had a good gray hair check early in the show here. So like, raise your hand if you have gray hair. We all have gray hair. Life is hard. The harder life gets, the more difficult, the more stressful, the things that happen to you. We are surrounded by terrible things. Like, life is defined by terrible things. It happens to people every day. So then what you have to do is fight through it, but also be distracted from it. Like, you have to have moments where that's not what's on your mind. And what better? I think it is the number 2 sport in America. I think, no doubt about it. Obviously, number 1 is the NFL. I think college football is number 2. I think college football is ahead of the NBA. I think college football is ahead of baseball. I think college football is ahead of anything else with the passion that people have. But I think you could argue that football, but then especially college football, is the number 1 societal connector in America today. And that especially the relationships that people have with their college football teams, it doesn't matter your age, it doesn't matter your economic status, it doesn't matter your gender, it doesn't matter your race, it doesn't matter your religion. This is what brings you together in a community. And I've often been interested in, if you asked people who love Ohio State football, like outside of your family and your faith, right, the things that really matter, what's the most important thing in your life? How many people would say Ohio State football? And what a privilege that is for any of us to be involved with that. And if it's not fun, then why are we doing it? And I've tried over the years to help, and I wasn't raised in Ohio State football, so I understand I come at it from a different perspective. But I try to help. I've tried, maybe I don't want to be people's therapist. I'm not qualified to be that. But like, if you're curled up like a fetus after an Ohio State loss, and like you can't think about anything else and it's ruined your day, like, just like, I would like to help pull people back from the edge of that. But I understand that can be difficult because you love it so much. But my God, the rest of the time, if you're not having fun, what are we doing? So you guys have a fun time doing this. I have fun interacting with people who love Ohio State football. And that's what makes it great.
Well said. Well said. Let's dive into our first topic tonight, guys, because I think that this is one of the things I love about Doug, is he's able to just dissect and look at things from a different perspective, maybe, 1,000-foot view, and then really focus in on it and come up with thoughts and theories and viewpoints I haven't seen before. And I kind of want to use this opportunity to pick Doug's brain tonight a little bit about some things that Chris and I have talked about, some things we have maybe hinted at before, but I felt like tonight was a great night to do some of this. So I'm going to just start with Ryan Day. And let's go here tonight. So for the longest time, and on this podcast included, from certain individual below me, he was John Cooper 2.0 because of his inability to win the biggest games and beat the team up north.
Yeah.
And then magic happened. And so I want to ask you this question, Doug. Going into 2025, is Ryan Day John Cooper with a national championship? Or is Ryan Day the guy who could win number 2 and become the greatest quarterback or greatest head coach at Ohio State, not named Woody Hayes? Who is he?
Boy, he's on the precipice of falling either way, probably. Yeah. And I think you could argue, you could spin it the other way and say John Cooper is Ryan Day without the opportunity at redemption. and I'm sure you guys have talked about this. We've talked about this a lot over the years. I'm not sure, and I try not to be too myopic in opinions like this. I'm not sure you could find any college football coach in the modern era who would have been more helped by either the 4-team playoff or especially the 12-team playoff, and the chance to have an uber talented team that is absolutely capable of winning a national championship, but was sideswiped, often by Michigan or by Michigan State in 1998. But do you guys think if there had been even a 4-team playoff during the Cooper era, that Coop would have a national title?
Go ahead, Chris. Go ahead, Chris. Yeah. Chris, you're muted.
Yeah, I think he probably has. He has at least one, but I think he has a shot at 2 for sure.
Right? Like 98, 95, 97, 98, you get 2 out of 3 in there. Is that right?
You get 2 out of 3.
96 was the Rose Bowl team.
Yeah.
That's Ryan Miller. My cousin was on that team. They stubbed their toe against the team up north. They go out. They beat Arizona State in the Rose Bowl, January 1 of 97. Mm-hmm. That team's a national championship team, hands down. 98, best roster in college football, hands down.
Yep.
Nick Saban, Michigan State rolls into town, upsets Ohio State. They go rest of the way, win every game after that. Absolutely. And every one of those players who played for him, who we've talked to, have always said if we would have played in that era, we would have had a great chance to win a national championship.
So then I don't you live in your era. You are surrounded by your circumstance. You are judged against your peers in that era. But then when you do this kind of thing over the years, I think it's at least fair to talk about it. So it is not obviously at all to diminish what Ohio State did last year and say, well, if you had been in the 90s, you wouldn't even had the chance. That's not the point. It's that other people would have greatly appreciated the opportunity in the past. And then it's one of those things, again, that if there are any people left who don't like the 12-team playoff, don't like the expansion of that, it's like, well, then do you not like the national championship that Ohio State won last year? That the idea to me, I think it is healthy for the young men playing the sport. I think is healthy for fans to not have to be perfect. And then I always say, if the thing that you like the most about college football is the misery of losing and the way it is so punitive, and it's like, oh man, I don't like the expanded playoff. You know what I love? I loved it in 98 when Ohio State had the most talented team in the country and had one bad day and they were dead. That's what I love about college football. That's my favorite thing. It's like, really? The misery, the absolute misery of a bad weekend in every other sport in North America. You can have a bad day and still win a national championship. And in our sport, you can't. We're not allowing it. One bad day, you're dead. That's what you love. If you do, I question it. I know there are some people who think that way. But in the Ryan Day evaluation, that's not the number one thing, right? You do have to take context into consideration. The thing that I brought up a lot last year, Jim Tressel, national championship in year 2. Mm-hmm. Paul Brown, national championship in year 2. Urban Meyer, national championship in year 3. Woody Hayes, national championship in year 4. There had never been an Ohio State coach, Ryan Day, national championship in year 6. There had never been an Ohio State football coach who took that long to win a national championship, because Earl Bruce never won one and John Cooper never won one. And so I do think for Ohio State fans, it's like, man, it's year 6, brother. What are we doing here? Chop, chop. That was sort of ingrained in how it worked here, because once you win a national championship, it changes every conversation about that coach, and it changes the day-to-day reality for that coach from then on. Because you might have the same conversations and you might have the same feelings, but you have them while you're wearing a ring. And that you can never take that off that coach's finger. And so we are in a new era of Ryan Day, and I think every conversation that we have and every way that a fan looks at Ryan Day and every way Ryan Day feels about himself is different. But he's still 1-4 against Michigan. So then, that doesn't. This is the thing that when you try, and again, you guys know this, and I relate to Ryan Day for this reason. And it's not about me, but in many ways, because I'm not from here. I didn't grow up on Ohio State football. I didn't have it in my blood when I arrived here, but I certainly viewed the opportunity to be around Ohio State football as a great privilege and a great opportunity. And now, after 20 years of it, I have some handle on it, not the same as you guys or anybody else who grew up in it. But I also don't think like, are you precluded? Are you precluded from being part of Buckeye Nation in any way if you didn't grow up in it? And that obviously that's a coaching conversation, but it does make it a little more difficult when Urban grew up in it, when Tress grew up in it, when Earl was around it, when Woody would, and the guy who was the outsider was the guy who went 2-10-1 against Michigan. So of course that's the comparison. And then it's like, are you losing to your rival? And then is it coincidental that the coaches from Ohio have winning records against Michigan and the coaches not from Ohio have losing records against Michigan? Is that coincidence? Or is there something missing in there as it applies to Ryan Day and John Cooper? So, given the opportunity that Coop never had, Ohio State capitalized on that in a tremendous way that we all know those players and coaches deserve tremendous credit for. But now what?
Yeah.
And the thing that I think Ohio State, if you're outside Ohio State, to say that a national championship wipes away 1-4 against Michigan is not true. It certainly affects it, but it's not true. And I think sometimes outsiders or national media people try to equate those two things too much, when honestly, I always say it's two paths. It's two separate conversations. They affect each other, but it doesn't erase Ryan Day's 1-4 record against Michigan because he has a ring on his finger.
Let me ask you this question, Doug. And you alluded to this a little bit since he's won the national championship. And we have, not being as close to the program from a journalistic side of things as you are, we've only can only glean from you guys and what you tell us and making this determination and maybe our own feelings or what we pick up on watching the press conferences or when we were able to go to practice as fans and stand there and watch him coach. Since he won the Natty, is he a different coach than what you saw before? And if so, how do you anticipate that affecting how he goes into the game against the team up north?
Yeah, it's hard because I thought he was different, would be different a little bit after the Michigan loss in 22 when they then went and played Georgia so well. And I thought the Georgia semifinal loss is like the greatest loss in Ohio State history, right? That they took the champs to the wire. They competed in every way. They had how many things go against them from an injury standpoint to Marv getting knocked out of the game and the player not getting ejected to the missed field goal at the end, like a million different things, right? You're on third down. You're trying to throw the ball to Xavier Johnson on a key play because Marv's not in the game, right? All those things. Kate Stover's hurt. And I remember like saying in the time that like he had kind of been through the fire with that and like came out the other side, right? That like, okay, like that was that they almost like, even though they didn't win, they lost to Michigan and they found a way, they found something in themselves. And so I could have had this conversation with you guys 2 years ago of like, I think he's changed. I think he's been through the fire and that 22 Michigan loss is like as bad as it could get. And they bounced back and they didn't win, but they showed themselves and this fan base something. And then they lost the next two games to Michigan. So I was like, I don't know. Has anything changed? I would have said he's different. So now is he different now? Because I think it's different stuff. I'm not sure the thing that wins you a national title is the same thing that wins you the Michigan game. Whether that's internal, whether that's style of play, whether that's the way you talk to your team and get them thinking during the week. I'm not sure how much those things have in common. That yes, it's a big game, and yes, it's a talented team, and yes, it means a lot. But so it has to be better. With a ring on your finger, everything's better. But I'm not 100% sure how much of a direct effect it is. And it's one of those things. I don't like to be in the camp of, well, I'm not going to believe it till I see it. That I'm never going to believe that Ryan Day can beat Michigan again until he beats Michigan again. Because I think then you just miss something. And like you miss it's like, I think there's something happening here. The weirdest outcome, as you guys laid this out here, is that both happen. And he's John Cooper with 4 national championships. That he finishes his career at Ohio State like 3-9 against Michigan with 4 national championships. And we're for the rest of eternity going, isn't it weird that Ryan Day has more national championships than wins against Michigan? Isn't that weird? And we'd be like, that is weird. But is it
I don't know that I can live in that world, Doug.
Is it good? Is it bad? Well, it's better than 3-9 against Michigan with no national championships. But it's not better than 4 national championships and 7-5 against Michigan, right? I don't know. I don't think it'll be that. Because the thing is, and I looked up a bunch of stuff. I just want to show you guys. This is how much I care about this parents. I wrote stuff in a college ruled notebook. I'm 51 years old. I got out a pen for the kids out there, for the youth. I used a pen and pieces of paper to write down information. And I have all kinds of stuff about like his record against Michigan and his winning percentage overall. I find this is, I think, the craziest stat. Do you know what Ryan Day's record in Big Ten play is against everyone but Michigan?
Oh, it's almost perfect, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 45-1.
Yeah,
with the loss to Oregon. He's 1-4 against Michigan and 45-1 against the rest of the conference. That's crazy. Now, the first 3 losses were to 2 Michigan teams that reached the semifinals and a national championship team. They're great. And I tried to say leading up to all those games, and I think it's the worst thing, and I think Ohio State fans know this by now, the worst thing Ohio State fans can do is underestimate Michigan. Mm-hmm. Because to just be like, Michigan stinks, it's like, no, they don't. Like, they just don't anymore. And Mason Graham was awesome, and Colston Loveland was awesome, and they lost a lot of talent, but their defense is real. Derek Moore is real. Those linebackers are real. I think Bryce Underwood is going to be real. I'm not sure how real he'll be as a freshman this year. I think their running backs are going to be good. So I hope Ohio State fans have got, because that doesn't serve anybody. Because then if Ohio State wins, it's like, they stink anyway. And then if Ohio State loses, it's like, they lost to a team that stinks. They don't stink. They didn't even stink last year. Their quarterback play was atrocious and held them back. But there was like a good amount of talent on that team. Sure. So I think Ohio State fans are past that. So I have not answered your question, and I've caused both of you guys during this 8-minute rant to go, oh my God, I can't live that way. So I hope that was helpful.
Yeah. Chris, I'll turn the floor over to you, buddy.
Okay, and you know what's funny, Doug, just so you know, is I don't have it on pen and paper, but I have a 4-monitor setup, and I've got the same type thing with just stats all over the screen and everything right now. And you talked about Ryan Day, and you talked about that 875 winning percentage. You talked about the Big Ten, record, the 2025 national title. He's turned the corner. He's no longer the guy who couldn't win the big game. Still has the problem with that. Where, for you, does that put him in the lexicon of Ohio State coaches? If you look at the guys who have won natties, you look at Hayes, you look at Tressel, you look at Meyer, you look at Meyer, you look at Day, you look at Paul Brown, you look at these guys. Where does Ryan Day rank for you in that list of coaches?
Well, it's one of those things. Ohio State's like, good luck being the head coach at Ohio State, because he has the same number of titles as Urban and Tress, but they were 9-1 and 7-0 against Michigan. So obviously they're ahead of Ryan Day. Woody's Woody. And then, by the way, the other guy with a national title at Ohio State is one of the 5 greatest overall football coaches in the history of the sport. So Like to be like, well, I don't know. I think Ryan Day is better than Paul Brown. It's like, is lightning going to strike? Can a person say that in the state of Ohio with a straight face? Like, what would it take for Ryan Day to be better than Paul Brown? But what if he wins 3 or 4 national titles? Like that's so like right now. And then the other thing, guys, is there are so many Ohio State coaches, like, because before Woody, it's like, no offense to Francis Schmidt and everybody else back in the day. It's like Wes Fessler, right? We understand that. There's not a ton of reason to dig deep into Ohio State football like in the pre-Woody days, because like the modern Ohio State was formed through Woody Hayes and the way college football emerged in that era.
Right.
But it's like the only coaches with winning records against Michigan are Francis Schmidt's 4-3, Woody's 16-11-1, Earl Bruce's 5-4, Tress's 9-1, and Urban's 7-0. So there's a lot of other people in there who didn't beat Michigan either, right? And I'll say this, I just know this. I know I was texting with Ryan Day after he beat Michigan in 2019 for the first time. And the burden, like he knew, I think like for fans who are frustrated with him and it's a results-oriented business and nobody is hired because they're a nice guy, you're hired to win and everybody accepts that and you're compensated for that and you are in service of the fan base. He felt that. He felt that as an outsider, right? He felt that responsibility to go beat the Michigan Wolverines. He carried that with him. And when he did that the first time, there was such a degree of relief. And you guys saw it in the news conference too, but the relief that happened there, right? And like that he lived up to something. I think he was proud of his team. I think he was proud of himself. I think he was proud that he did that for the fans. There's no doubt that he understands it. We always said, I was always like, I don't know, have Tress come in for the week. I know he's busy being the lieutenant governor now, but like I still think there are things that when you are not of it, when you are not raised in it, can you lean on people who were to help you in your program in that week? I think you can. I'm still not sure 100% he's hit on that. But to answer your question, he's the 5th best coach in Ohio State history. Is that okay? Do you want to put a number on it?
Fair, absolutely.
Woody. You guys put Tress or Urban higher? Tress because he was longer and because 02 was a miracle and broke 3 decades?
It's got to be Tress, dude. Got to be.
So I think it's Woody, Tress.
Brought it back.
Tressel brought it back, and then Urban saved it when I thought a black cloud was ready to descend on the Ohio State football program, and the way that to go 12-0 in the band season, immediately bring that back. So is that right? And then Paul Brown's just a short timer who went on and did a million different great things. So I think, right, so I think would almost everybody watching and listening to this agree on Woody, Tressel, Meyer, Brown, Day? And then if Wes Fessler's great-great-great-grandson or daughter is out there and wants to make a case, like you guys can have them on next week. But for the meantime, we'll make Ryan Day number 5.
Yeah. But with an opportunity to leapfrog. I mean,
he's the only guy with the opportunity to actually improve his station right now. So
right.
Like it's one of those things, and this is dangerous territory, and I'm not actually doing it. I'm just saying, like, can you imagine if someone did it, which is a podcasting tip. Don't actually say the thing. Just say, wouldn't it be crazy if someone said this thing and then say the thing and then no one can yell at you? Bear Bryant's Bear Bryant. And then Nick Saban came and did that on top of Bear Bryant. So it's like, well, they have a Bear Bryant statue, and they also have a Nick Saban statue. And I think you could argue they're the 2 greatest coaches. I mean, I say Saban's the greatest coach in college football history. So I'm not putting that on Ryan Day. But what if 15 years is a Ryan Day statue outside the Woody next to Woody?
Sign me up.
I'm good with that. I am good with that.
And the thing about it, Doug, is Ryan he's a likable guy. He's not a prick. He's not a dumpster juice, he runs a clean program, a respectable program. The players love him. He's got all of this stuff that we as Ohio State fans love. We just want him to do it, man. We want him to do it so bad. And I know he does too. And that's the thing, man.
And the funny thing is, even the guys who wanted to run him out of town didn't dislike the guy. It's not that they didn't like him. They just didn't like the record. That was it.
Which is right. Which is what unfortunately, a couple people made it personal, but like that idea, and that's the thing that I don't think. Which is why I got mad. Like when Kirk Herbstreit took the fan base to task, is we all understand the deal here. And it's not personal. And I've had coaches and others, Hugh Jackson, when I was covering the Browns, like thought I made it personal. I was like, why? I don't even know you. Why do you think it's personal? Like, why does if Kirk Ferentz thinks I made it personal, I don't know you. How could I possibly have something personally against you? I just, on behalf of the fans, don't think you're doing your job very well. Or I think you are putting your personal feelings ahead of what's best for the team, which is what's best for the fan. But then to be like, how dare like fans be upset? You mean like, how dare fans be upset by 4 straight losses to Michigan? What are you talking about? Of course they are. And then questioning whether that coach is equipped to be the person to get this done. Of course that's happening. How are you mad about that? And anybody who made it personal, then like I say, you lose hand, right? It's like you had a point. 4 straight losses to Michigan is a pretty strong point. But then if you attack the guy's family, then you lose everything. So like, don't make it personal. It's about job performance. And I think to question Ryan Day's job performance after the Michigan loss last year was incredibly reasonable. And so then anybody who was like, how dare you like look at the records or anything else? It's like, I hate to tell you, like, that's not what it's about. The records, the 45-1 is the 45-1, but the 1-4 is also the 1-4. And one of them's 46 games and the other one's 5 games, and they're equally important. And actually the 5 games is probably more important than the 46. And if you don't understand that, I wasn't born in it. I wasn't raised in it. But it doesn't take long to understand it, man. Like, this is it. You can't call this the greatest rivalry in sport and then be like, it's okay. And actually, if you want to go through, and I've done this at times, if you want to go through like the best rivalries in college football, anybody losing 4 in a row is pretty unusual. And we're a little thrown off because Ohio State kicked Michigan's butt for so long. But like, that was odd. And even like when Auburn's getting the Saban era, Auburn would win like 25% of them. Right? Auburn wasn't losing to Bama 9 straight years. So like 4 straight years is a lot. It really is. That's a reasonable line to like, of course you're going to lose one and even lose back to back. And then you throw the Connor Stallions thing into it, which I think is a fair conversation for sure. But it doesn't eliminate the losses, right? So I just found it. I don't think you can call it the greatest rivalry in sport and then act like fans are crazy for being mad about losing 4 straight.
All right, we could go. I could have this conversation for the next 2 hours, and who knows what avenue we would run down. But this has been great. Let's transition now to this year's team. I have been comparing, Doug, this team to 2021, CJ Stroud's first year, and I remember those first few games under Stroud where things were a little bit clunky. You had the opener against Minnesota, and it was okay. We did all right.
Mm-hmm.
You had the loss to Oregon at home. Mm-hmm. And again, I don't put all of that on CJ at all. The defense was awful that day. They literally ran the same play over and over and over again, and the fans are all screaming, and we can't stop it. He sits out a week against Akron. Mm-hmm. And what's his name comes in and at quarterback, and
is that what you guys call him now? Old what's his name?
Honda McCord. Derek McCord's boy.
Old what's his name?
Oh, okay. What's his name? We've tried to suppress that, Doug. That's And then CJ got awful, and then he became the greatest passing quarterback in I've ever seen wear scarlet and gray. Mm-hmm. I think Julian Sain, and again, as of this recording, we still don't know who the starting quarterback is going to be. Although I feel here at this show, we're leaning towards probably it being Julian Sain, just based on a number of things here. But even if it's not, we're starting off this year, and it feels very similar to that. That team went 10-2, if I recall correctly, if I remember, mm-hmm. and. Mm-hmm. Last year's team, as good as that team was,
No.
went 10-2 in the regular season.
Right.
I've been telling everybody, if this team goes 10-2 and we get back to the college football playoff, and one of those 10 wins happens in Ann Arbor, this is a successful season for Ohio State. Are those fair expectations on this team? Chris doesn't like that. He's going to disagree with me, and that's what makes this show great. I want to hear from you first, Chris. I'll let you chime in after Doug gets done answering my question.
I do feel like with a fan base like this, and the thing, and I've had like disagreements with Ari about this over the years. I don't like couching seasons that don't end in a national championship as failure. I wouldn't have even liked doing that last year, because only one team wins, and I think in college football we have to find a way for more than one team and more than one fan base to be happy. And I think the fact that Ohio State, when they redid the Woody this offseason, that they, along with the 9 national championship, they're not even banners. They're just like, they take up a big space on the wall in the indoor practice field. They also have a college football playoff thing that has the college football playoff logo and lists the number of times that they've made the college football playoff. They have all the years there. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? People put that out there on social, right?
Yep.
That's a step to me. Because now, listen, back in the day when I first showed up, it was like, it's like, there's a Citrus Bowl banner up there. It's like, hey, everybody's all fired up about the Citrus. And I know that's not the goal. But, so they don't have the Citrus Bowl banners up there anymore. But I think acknowledging that making the college football playoff is an accomplishment in and of itself at a place like Ohio State is very healthy. I think it is very healthy. And that they did it, I found it very interesting. So I think of it as that Ohio State, like the Ohio State, just the community, the whole thing, Buckeye Nation, right? Buckeye Nation's a balloon. And every year that Ohio State doesn't win a national championship, you blow in the balloon a little bit more, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then it's either going to pop, and when it pops, people get fired, fans get mad. It's like popping's not good. Or you win a national championship and you let the air out of the balloon. And it's like, we have a national championship. We just won. That was a great offseason. Doesn't mean we're not trying this year. Doesn't mean we don't have expectations. We're not settling. But we're just starting to blow the balloon back up. So if it doesn't happen this year, like, I would even say like it's because in 21, I think you make a lot of good points with like the comparisons between, we don't know what the defense is going to be like. It's going to be better than 21, but like a coordinator that you're maybe a little unsure about defensively, a talented 5-star quarterback who hasn't played before. And I do think that means by the end of the year, if Ohio State had beaten Michigan, CJ would have won the Heisman. After he threw 6 touchdown passes against Michigan State in the first half, he was the Heisman favorite. And so I think of all the things that Connor Stalions did, I think what he may have done, and it's not about it, but I think you don't know that Ohio State would have won a national championship in there for sure. I think he cost CJ a Heisman. And that's what CJ went from that first half against Minnesota. I remember being at that Minnesota game and him talking about it after. Like the first half was bad and the second half was good. So I think people have to have a little grace if it's going to be Julian Sand. I certainly agree with you guys and expect him to be Julian Sand. I think CJ's a good comparison for him. Processing, accuracy, quick release, all those things. Wasn't perfect early. I don't think it's going to be perfect early for Julian Sand. So you have to have a little grace. But to me, and I know there are people in here who disagree with this. And I respect disagreeing. Someone already said, second place is whatever, first loser kind of mentality. Ricky Bobby ruined it for everybody. So I have always thought, and this is why I think I'd rather be an Ohio State fan than an LSU fan, because LSU has more national titles in the last 20 years than Ohio State does, because they have 3 and Ohio State has 2. But LSU has a bunch of years where they've fallen off the table and been non-competitive, and Ohio State has never done that. Other than the crazy Luke Fickell year. They're in the mix every year. And I think to have hope for an entire offseason and be in the mix for an entire season and then fall short, think about those wonderful Saturdays. Think about how excited you are, the possibilities. When your team is 2-2 in September, and it's like, well, I guess we're not doing that. I think that's such a different experience. So I think if Ohio State can be in the mix the entire year, I certainly think in a 12-team playoff, an expectation that Ohio State should make the playoff every year is not unfair, short of something incredibly unusual or devastating. 10-2, make the playoff, take your shot, but probably not be all that mad or disappointed if they don't repeat. I think that would be a reasonable, healthy place to be. But on the list of things, Ohio State football has done almost everything there is to do in college football. The one thing they haven't done is repeat.
Back to back. Yep. Came close. Almost went back to back to back one time, but.
And like you can think about, like, even you think like 69, right? Going up to Michigan and whatever, guys are sick on the train. And it's like, oh man, what that could have been. And you think about, obviously everybody knows in 15, they were probably the most talented team in the country, and one loss ruined them. And like the along the way, my God, the things they could have done in the 70s if they won a few more Rose Bowls, right? I mean, like there have been opportunities. I saw someone use the word mini dynasty. I think there have been opportunities for mini dynasties in the course of Ohio State football that have never happened. And I think that is on the table here. But I think that conversation is not a 2025 conversation. It is a 2025 and 2026 and 2027 and 2028 conversation. So I think Ohio State has a pretty decent chance, knowing the playoff road is difficult. But the thing that has kept Ohio State in the modern era from doing it has been getting in. Nobody was right on the edge of the 14 playoff and missed it as much as Ohio State did. They finished 5th, they finished 6th, they finished 7th. It was like one loss and they were out. If they get in, and they'll get in almost all the time, if they get in, they can win it every year. Like, they can beat anybody. There's nobody in the country that they can't beat in the playoff. No, but there's nobody that's like, there's no super team. So I think Ohio State absolutely could win 3 in 6 years. Would I put that all on them now? Like, you're going to be mad or disappointed if they don't do it this year with all the guys they've lost and 2 new coordinators and all that stuff, and the fact that they play arguably the 2 biggest games of the regular season against Texas and Penn State? No, I would encourage people to not be angry or disappointed if they don't get it done, but I firmly expect them to be in the playoff.
Chris?
Yeah, I understand where you guys are coming from, and the repeat. The repeat is kind of a bit of a pipe dream, a bit of a reach. It's tough. I mean, if you look at it, I believe Minnesota back in the 50s is the only team in the Big Ten to ever repeat as national football champions, as far as in the Big Ten. So, I mean, yeah. So that is tough. And I'm not saying the season's a failure without a national championship. What I will say is this: this is a team that should go 11-1. This is a team that should beat that team up north in Ann Arbor this season. And a lot of people, and Eric, I know you're one that throws that Texas game out there, and they throw Arch out there. And let me tell you, Arch, yes, he is a great talent. I do not dispute that. But he's only got a couple games of experience. And honestly, they were not against the highest level of competition. And you look at this, and Texas actually lost more of their production than Ohio State did, yet everybody's given this to Texas because they've anointed Arch Manning the head coach already, or the Heisman Trophy winner already. It's yet to be determined. I think they've got to go 11-1. I think they got to beat that team up north. I think a key is they have to get back and win a Big Ten championship. That to me is huge. And then you make a playoff run, you finish top 5 nationally at the end of the year. That is a very productive year.
So you're putting you think they've got to have a better regular season record than they did last year?
I feel like I could accept 10-2, but I think truly successful is 11-1. And For me, a lot of it is, and I know I'm going to get pushback from a lot of people on this. A lot of people point that Penn State game as a potential loss. I don't see it that way because we have this little thing that we like to call James Franklin likes to James Franklin himself. He will find a way to lose that game. Texas, and a lot of people say Day was the same way. And I get that. But, Texas, I think, is people are putting the cart in front of the horse.
Zach is right on this. Zach is right on the thing that I think is a big deal. They have a stretch.
Illinois is actually my pick to be the loss is Illinois.
So is mine. I had Ohio State 10-2 with losses to Texas and Illinois. The stretch, 4 straight weeks, 3 on the road. The home game is Minnesota, but at Washington, at Illinois, at Wisconsin. And it's something that has not happened to Ryan Day yet, which is like the loss you don't see coming. It's the Purdue loss. It's the Iowa loss. It's the Purdue loss in 2009. It's the Wisconsin loss in 2010, right?
Yeah.
We all know what those type of losses look like for Ohio State. And again, one of the best things Ryan Day has done is avoid those losses. I don't know if you can avoid them forever. And I do think there's going to be a pretty decent, healthy middle of the Big Ten, which I think we'll talk about later. You guys also agree the difference between like what your record is, the same record with a Michigan win versus that record with a Michigan loss feels like a gigantic difference.
Huge.
So 10-2 with a Michigan win, I think 10-2 with a Michigan win when 2 of their games are against 2 of the 5 best teams in the country in Texas and Penn State and Illinois, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Washington. Like I hope people understand that a lot of those mid-tier Big Ten teams are better than they used to be. I think 10-2 with a Michigan win is that gets you in the playoff and you take your shot. I think that would be, and I don't even know if I want to use the word successful. I hope that would be an enjoyable season for Ohio State fans. Hey, we lost a couple games, but we've played some tough teams. We beat Michigan. Finally, that's a huge deal. We're in the playoff. I'm excited. Let's go. Hey, you can't win it every year. I don't know if people would get to Valentine's Day and be like, oh my gosh, that's Ohio State football season ruined my life for the offseason, And so I get it. And the other thing is like if the people who are like championship or bust, right? It's like, man, that's a lot of busts in your life, brothers and sisters. Like that is,
yeah.
So like you're our age and you've been truly fulfilled as an you follow, I think inarguably the most consistently successful team in college football. And we did the whole series on that back in the day at Cleveland.com. I think inarguably, everybody else has fallen off a cliff for a decade or at least 5 years, whether it's Alabama or Texas or Penn State or Michigan or USC or Florida State or everybody. Ohio State never has. And that you follow a team with your heart and your soul for 40 or 50 years, and then you say to yourself, well, we only won like 3 national championships, so the other 37 years sucked. It's like, oh boy, I hope that's not how it feels.
One of the advantages,
I get being disappointed. I hope it doesn't suck.
One of the advantages I have being part of the college huddle is interviewing a lot of different people. And one of the fan bases I interact with the most are the Notre Dame fans because of our mutual disdain for all things maize and blue. You talk to Notre Dame fans and how they looked at last season, getting to a national championship game, losing, but getting there. They look at that thing with so much love and hope. And then, Notre Dame fans who are our age, my age, I'm 44, they don't remember a national championship. They were so young, they don't remember it.
Yep.
And so here I am talking about 3 in my lifetime. And yes, we want the success that Alabama had under Saban, right? We want that. We want to feel that. But I don't want to devalue the journey and all the great memories and everything we had. That's one of the reasons why I love Tressel. Tressel only won one. Day and Tressel are tied in national championships. But those Tressel years I hold with such esteem in my life. I was a college kid. I was at Ohio State when Tressel turned the tide and won a natty, and that will never devalue in my life. And I say that to say this. There's another comparison, Doug, when we have this conversation about this team this year and the expectation I want to run by you. Let's go back to 2014. Everybody pointed that. I remember distinctly this time of year in 2014, everybody was talking. They're young, they've got some veterans, but this is going to be a really young team. Great sophomores. They developed them. They're going to be, but 2015 is going to be the year, man. They are going to be awesome. And then they went out and won it in 2014 in the most improbable way possible with a third string quarterback doing it. And then I look at this team, and again, I see if they have the blueprint with Nil to bring back a lot of that junior talent that's in this on this roster who's going to play this year, redshirt sophomores, 3-year guys, junior guys, and they can bring them back. It sets it up kind of similar to what we saw last year. And so maybe we have a 2014 repeat in the sense that we might be looking at next year, but we might just win the doggone thing again this year too. And that's one of the reasons why I say if you get a seat, if you can get in the playoffs, if you got a seat there, you shoot your shot, see what happens. And one of the things we know is, I think personally, because of his experience in the NFL, Ryan Day knows how to build a team up to get them to that point. So that hopefully, because of health, because of experience during the season, when they get there, now they're ready to just unleash and go. That's kind of what I hope happened last year a little bit, coupled with just a ton of anger for what happened at the end of November. But maybe this year there's a couple things that you can look at in the past and glean from to say this could be another year like that.
There's not, right, because there's you and then there's everybody else, right? And so there was that run of super teams for a while there that it felt like, man, and even like, for instance, in 2019, and it's not that we all knew it was going to come, but once we were happening, I think we recognized it. Ohio State was awesome in 2019. I don't know what you do with Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson, and Jamar Chase and all that other talent on that LSU team. Sometimes, I think 2020 was Saban's best team. It was a goofy year, but it's like, okay, well, Ryan Day, he ran into the best team ever for the best coach ever. So I don't know what you're supposed to do with that. I don't think that's out there this year. And honestly, you're going to find out the team that might, and you guys make good points. Like the Texas lost a bunch. I think people should understand Penn State, Notre Dame have more back than Ohio State. Notre Dame has a lot back on defense. They had so many injuries on defense last year that now it's kind of helped them because they had guys who came in and their offensive line. I mean, they had 2 or 3 guys transfer off the offensive line because they weren't going to be able to get on the field. Because Anthony Knapp last year as a true freshman has to play because guys are hurt. Now, guess what? Now he's a true sophomore with all kinds of experience under his belt on the offensive line. And I think their skill guys are going to be better. Jeremiah Love's the best running back in the country, arguably. Penn State, their depth on the offensive line, their defensive identity, as everybody knows, they're kind of in a similar situation with the guys they brought back that Ohio State was last year anyway. I don't think you're wrong. I certainly would not disagree with that, Boggs. The idea that and that taught me, 2014 taught me there's no targeting a year for Ohio State. I have not done that since then. Every year is Ohio State's year. It's oh, well, I look down, I think, no, it could be right now. Because just when you think X, it's going to be Y. They could win it. Do you guys agree with the statement? And actually, I think this would be the time in an expanded playoff where you're allowed to lose. So you don't have to be perfect. You can have a bad Saturday. Do you guys agree with the statement that Ohio State could win the national championship every year? That every year Ohio State comes into the season thinking we could win the national championship? Do you think that's fact now? Going forward, in perpetuity.
Yeah. I think it has to be. You look at this team, and you mentioned it earlier, Doug. This is a team that's never had a letdown. Only team in college football to never have an 8-loss season. A team that since 1950, the last 75 years, has the most wins in college football. This is a team that is winning 75% of its games since then. And now that you've got this explained playoff, and Eric, you mentioned it, it's a poker philosophy. All you need is a chip and a chair.
Yeah.
You get in, and we see from Ryan Day and his team and his coaches what we saw last season from them, which I think is very much an NFL mentality. And you mentioned it, and we got another guy in there now in Matt Patricia. We're adding Boyer, who's another NFL guy, Hartline, who was an NFL guy, Walton, an NFL guy. NFL is all about building up to the playoff, just getting in and then establishing your dominance.
Mm-hmm.
And I really feel like that right now is what Ryan Day is putting together in his coaching staff. And it's what we saw last year out of his team. So, yes, I think if he gets in any year, and let's face it, Ohio State's been there 6 out of the 10 years the playoffs existed.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said earlier, Doug, they were right on the edge those other years. There's no way you can't say that they have a shot legitimately every year.
And that actually is when you would know it's time to change coaches the most. If you ever got into a season and everybody kind of agreed, Ohio State's not winning the national championship this year, then you would say, why is that? I don't think that's acceptable. And I think that's even more definitional than did you win the national championship, is did you think you could win the national championship? And if Ohio State in this era doesn't think it could win the national championship inside and outside the building, then something's wrong. And if it happens one year because you get caught in between and there's a couple guys who will get abducted by aliens and all of a sudden it's like, oh man, right? Then I get it. But even that would be tough to stomach. So, and then the thing that we've certainly talked about a lot, I'm sure you guys have talked about, is like there's so many teams that are playing younger quarterbacks, right? It's such an advantage for Penn State to have third-year Drew Aller. But Oregon's got a basically new guy. We know Dante Moore started 5 games at UCLA, but pretty much new. Notre Dame's got a new guy with C.J. Card. Michigan's going to play Bryce Underwood. Alabama has a new quarterback. Georgia has a new quarterback. It's like, and Chris, as you said, like Arch is famous. Arch is not super experienced. He's more experienced than Julian Sayin, but he's started 2 games or whatever it is. Like, he's not a super experienced guy. And then a lot of the teams is like Cade Klubnik at Clemson and Drew Aller at Penn State and Garrett Nussmeier at LSU. It's like, it's sort of like the 1A teams. It's not, because really like the best, which is, it's a reason why I think a lot of people are on Penn State. And I think justifiably so. Because it's like you feel like maybe, and I don't think Aller's ceiling is maybe quite as high, but there's much more certainty with Aller than there is with Julian Sayin right now, just purely based on snaps. Same with C.J. Carr, same with Dante Moore, same with Ty Simpson, same with Gunnar Stockton. You know, right? I mean, that's like 5 of the 7 best programs in the country, right? Georgia, Alabama, Oregon, Notre Dame, Ohio State, who are going to be playing quarterbacks who are highly rated but have not played that much. And then you've got Clemson and Penn State with returning guys that you believe in a little bit. So it's like whose quarterback's going to improve the most by November is probably going to go a long way toward deciding who's going to win the actual national championship. Because I certainly think we could see all 5 of those. Actually, I don't believe in Bama, but we could see all 5 of those teams with young quarterbacks in the playoff, right? And then it's like who's ready to do something.
This has been a great conversation. We are already an hour into this thing, guys, and
God, what happened?
Great job, man.
Sorry.
Let's pay some bills. Let's take a quick commercial break, pay some bills. We've got more stuff we're going to dive into, guys. It might be a late one tonight, and Doug already promised me he'll talk all night long. So we will do a quick commercial, everybody. We will be right back, pay some bills, and then we're going to dive into some Big Ten talk. The OHIO podcast is brought to you by Mastermind. Mastermind specializes in 360-degree, high-definition mobile video mapping, GIS integration, and traffic safety studies. Mastermind cares about traffic safety and keeping you safe on the roadway. Visit Mastermind at onlinemastermind.com.
Hey, Buckeye Nation. The OHIO podcast is thrilled to partner with Export Mouthguards, the innovators redefining protection in contact sports. Introducing the Ninja Pro Mouthguard, the strongest and most advanced mouthguard on the market. Engineered by dental experts, it's designed to deliver elite protection with a sleek, low-profile fit. Made with carbon fiber and multi-layer construction, it's impact tested to keep you safe from even the hardest hits. But that's not all. The Ninja Pro is 3D printed for 100% custom fit, offering unbeatable comfort and security for any athlete. From football to MMA, dominate your game with confidence while safeguarding your teeth and jaw. Getting started is easy. Use our home impression kit to create your custom fit and enjoy prepaid shipping. It's protection delivered right to your door. Plus, with a 1-year warranty and 100% satisfaction guarantee, and proudly made in the USA, the Ninja Pro is your ultimate defense on the field or in the ring. And here's the best part. When you visit exportguards.com, use promo code OHIO at checkout to get 20% off your purchase. That's right, 20% off elite protection made just for you. Protect your game, protect your future. Choose Export Ninja Pro Mouthguards, where innovation meets protection. Head to exportguards.com and use promo code OHIO today.
We want to thank today's episode, which is brought to you by A Place at Home Senior Care. If your loved one is recovering from a recent hospitalization, stroke, or fall, or living with dementia and needing support at home, A Place at Home Dublin provides home care supportive services like bathing, dressing, mobility assistance, and medication reminders, all in the comfort at home. Learn more at aplaceathome.com/Dublin or call 740-472-8181. All right, guys, let's talk a little bit about Big Ten here. Doug, as Kings of the North, you cover the Big Ten. You cover some of the other schools outside the Big Ten who are in the North. I got to know your opinion on this. It seems like we are heading to the Big Two conference, maybe Big Three possibly at first. Over time, realignment, ACC's next up maybe to get dissected and torn apart. From the people you know, the conversations you have had, where's the Big Ten heading, just in your mind?
I don't think I'm alone here, but the idea that they could dip into Florida, right, at some point, that like geography's out the window. We obviously have all learned that lesson. And I think if the Big Ten could go back in time, I think one of the great could have beens in modern college football era is if the Big Ten had been a little more aggressive, willing to not get too bogged down on the academic side of things, and Texas and Oklahoma would have wound up in the Big Ten. We all know that was at least discussed at some point, and that we could wind up in a situation where USC and Florida State are in the Big Ten, but somehow they didn't get Texas. Is like, what? How did they miss on that? At some point, you're too big, right? So I don't know how big you can go. And then at some point, you're not a conference anymore. And they're not a conference anymore already. They're just a TV package, which to me is like, well, can't you just get a TV package together and then let all the Olympic sports play in a conference with people who are kind of close by, and they can like get home after their game rather than having to fly across the country? Like, why did we have to get to this point? So they're not going to add. I don't think the Big Ten's going to add unless it's like extreme value. And like, where's the extreme value anymore? It's probably dipping into a new market like Florida, or it's Notre Dame. And I was talking to somebody, I don't want to steal their thunder because it's another media member that I thought was a good idea. Like the ACC agreement with Notre Dame right now to play 5 games a year and have all the other sports be in the conference. I think maybe the Big Ten could have had. I think the Big Ten with Notre Dame had always been on like a all or nothing track, and Notre Dame's pretty darn healthy right now. And it's like, wouldn't the Big Ten be better off just giving them the ACC deal? Be in the conference for every sport except football. Football stays independent, but you play Big Ten teams 5 times a year, and you're kind of with us. And I used to be on the all or nothing, like The heck with Notre Dame. Make them be in. They're really healthy right now. They're in a good spot. But that'd be kind of cool. I think that'd be better than this. I think Notre Dame would rather be doing that with the Big Ten than the ACC, and I think the Big Ten would rather have Notre Dame do that than not have them at all. So I could maybe see something like that, but I'm already starting to inch toward the Big Ten going from 9 conference games to 8 and playing like an SEC Big Ten Challenge game every year. I think that might be better. And then now you're going to be a 22-team conference, and there's going to be teams in your comp. It's like, why? Now Ohio State has to play Florida. At some point, too big. There is too big, but there's really got to be a reason at this point to add, and I don't think there's that many big reasons left out there.
So if the ACC implodes, you think they might add 2, 4?
I mean, it's just like to get into markets, right? If you're going to you wanted to get in the New York markets, like if you can get into Florida, I guess. Like I don't think Clemson would make a ton of sense. I mean, I'm certainly not an expert on this stuff. But it's just the same kind of thing. It's like you could, if you wanted to get North Carolina and Virginia, but then would the people in Virginia make you also take Virginia Tech? But like, what do Virginia and Virginia Tech really bring the Big Ten? I don't know. What does North Carolina really bring? I don't know. And so are you in a point where it's, a very specific discussion about a team like Florida State or something like that? Georgia Tech would maybe make sense, right? And the stuff that the Big Ten still likes to talk about academically, but like, why would do you want to get into Atlanta so bad that you would add Georgia Tech? And now you're creeping towards 20 teams and you're trying to figure out like Ohio State's going to play Illinois and Michigan State and Indiana less so they can make sure they play Georgia Tech. It's like, why? Like, and the TV partners are jumping up and down to get Georgia Tech. So then the TV drives everything. So I don't think it's much. And then at some point it's like, what are we doing? Just do a Super League, like whatever. Like it's nonsense. It doesn't make any sense. Why are we even trying to do this? And we've been talking a lot on our show about like rivalries and geographic rivalries. And when you start giving up geographic historical rivalries, because you've got to play conference games against people who are in your conference, but that you actually have nothing in common with, it's like now we're like Ohio State's got to play UCLA a certain number of times. So that means like we've got to play 9 conference games, but if there was one less conference game, then Ohio State could like play Cincinnati. You know what I mean? It's like, who should they be playing? Should Ohio State be playing UCLA or Cincinnati or somebody else geographically or historically that means something, right? So they're just TV packages, man. Just make a TV package. You can do anything you want with TV. Make a package. Why do you have to have soccer teams playing each other from the other side of the country? Because you just wanted your TV package to make more money. I'm not an expert on this stuff. Makes me mad. I'm an expert at yelling.
I can just see it right now, Chris. The next little Opus clip we're gonna have is Doug going, "Just make a package."
I'm telling you, I think they should just go to 2 30-team leagues.
But if it's 30 teams in a league, how is it a league?
2 leagues play.
But what is a league? What's a 30?
Well, if you look at it, there's 32 in the NFL. So you take basically you make 2 little NFLs and have them play each other.
Yeah, it would be pods.
Yeah, you have to break it down into pods.
Pods, and then you win your pod, and then pods basically start the college football playoff, similar to the NFL playoffs.
I feel like that's where they're headed, and it's all about. And you mentioned, Doug, it's all about the TV money. How many games can we get in? How many big markets we get in? Obviously, Florida's a good market to get into. You mentioned a lot of teams from the ACC. If it implodes, what about Boston College? What about the Boston TV market? That's a fairly good sized market, and it's not a team that's going to do anything for the Big Ten, other than the fact that it might piss off Notre Dame because USC's already refusing to play them. Maybe you're forcing Notre Dame's hand by bringing in another one of their traditional rivals.
They are playing this year. You can't get. This applies to sports a lot. It applies to life a lot. And I would be curious. I don't know the conversation you guys had around the changes to the game day experience at Ohio Stadium, but just because something is old doesn't mean it's traditional, and you can't allow yourself in sports to be bogged down by the past. You have to honor the past and embrace the past when appropriate, and be willing to free yourself of the past when appropriate. But I remember having a conversation with Gene Smith, like before he retired, about, Ohio State for a long time, like they were willing to share money with Purdue and Indiana and Minnesota and Michigan State because they were all buddy, like they were in the same neighborhood. And it's like your friends from back in the day. You grew up in the same place and your history matters. And so you're willing, even though everybody knows Ohio State brings in the money, like Ohio State was willing to share it with those people because the past meant something. But now if you're trying to tell Ohio State that they're going to be like in a league or in a TV package, and Boston College is part of that TV package, or Syracuse is part of that TV package, or Iowa State's part of that TV package, and everyone's getting a 30th of it, and then Ohio State's saying like, why am I getting a 30th, the same as Iowa State or Syracuse or Boston College? I don't know those guys. Those guys aren't my friends from back in the day. So I think like that idea of, if you're sharing things equally, your history matters. But if you're trying to propose sharing things equally with new people, I think that changes the discussion. Sure. And then it becomes if I'm not making more because they joined our club, I don't want them in the club. But then when people are like, well, then just kick these people out of the club. And then it's like, well, those are my boys from back in the day. Like, yeah, man, come on. Purdue, man, I've known Purdue since 1931. That's my guy. I love Purdue. I'm not kicking them out, right? I mean, I think that can seem silly. And at some point, if we get to a Super League and we know who's going to be in it and who's not, then they will get kicked out. But I think it's not about it. That would only happen. I think a place like Ohio State, like you would only leave your friends behind if there's nothing left, right? It's like they tore your whole neighborhood down. So if they tear down the Big Ten to go to a Super League, and then it's like, well, it's like you bring in Purdue, and Purdue's like, hey, Ohio State, come on, man. Can I have a ride? And Ohio State's like, I'm moving. They tore the neighborhood down. I got to go. I can't bring you. But if we're still in the neighborhood together, I'm not kicking you out. But I'm also not sharing money equally with Ole Miss because I don't have anything to do with Ole Miss, right? So I do think money drives everything, but relationships matter just enough that I think they factor into the equations to some degree.
So what does Doug want? If you, in a perfect world, what would you like to see the Big Ten do?
Get Notre Dame associated in some way, and then otherwise I'm pretty good. I think I'm good. I generally, you guys know we split the country north and south on Kings of the North. Mm-hmm. I feel like we've seen that kind of happen. Like that's what we're talking about. Chris, you're talking about like two leagues. It's like, if you're going to do that, let's make a North League and a South League, right? Like then let's do this. I think the thing that's hard and it's a complicated discussion is like the good teams still want to have good records. And a lot of people have brought this up, and my mind has been changed on this to some degree. It's like, hey, how come Ohio State doesn't play a banger every week? It's because if you play bangers every week, somebody who's playing all bangers, who's really good, is going 4-8. And who's going to be super excited about that? Teams that you know that you can beat have value. Mm-hmm. Like there are times where I might think to myself, man, it'd be awesome if Ohio State just played Alabama, Georgia, Texas, Oregon, Penn State, Notre Dame, LSU, Illinois. Like that's the 12-game schedule. Sign me up for that. And I do think like very quickly a lot of fans might get to the part like, can we just play Rutgers again? I liked it when we beat Rutgers. In the moment, I didn't appreciate how much I enjoyed beating Rutgers, right? So I don't know. That's the one thing that's different about college football than the NFL. Like the NFL is all parity. Like the college football is not parity. The good programs are used to winning, and the bad programs are used to trying to be 500 and get to a bowl. So I don't know how far down the like a team like Ohio State wants to go with like, well, we're playing 12 top 25 teams for our regular season and then hoping to like make the playoff at 8-4. That might be too much of an NFLization of college football. You guys brought up the NFL. There's a lot of things. We all see it. I don't think anybody wants to go all the way towards mini NFL. I don't think we want to be beholden to the past. And I think they're in a decent zone right now. But man, fully NFL, I think you could, if we got there with college football, I think we might all get there and look around and think to ourselves, what have we done?
Yeah, 100%.
We got what we wanted, and what have we done?
One of the things, I mean, I would say all three of us and most of the people who are probably in the chat are college football fans first. You know, we appreciate the NFL. We'll watch the NFL. Chris will definitely bet on the NFL. But I don't want it to be the NFL. I love college football because it's not the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the reasons why I've almost feel like college football's changed in a lot of ways for the worse in some aspects. Because we are becoming more NFL as far as the game is concerned. But I love the pageantry of it. You know, the bands, the fight songs, the rivalries, the fact that you went to school there and you could go back to the game and you can sing the alma mater with the players and you understand what that means, right? You don't get that in the NFL. And so I don't want to see us lose those things. And I think that means a lot to us. And we actually haven't talked about it on this podcast. What you brought up there with some of the changes of the game day experience. And I know my take on Ross Bjork has been a very unpopular one this week. I commend him for trying to do some things to fix what has become a very stale environment at the shoe. And it's not anybody's fault. There's a lot of factors that have led to that. All the noon kicks, some of it on fans' perspective. Yes.
You know what happens also? You know why the vibes get stale and why because they win. Because they don't have to be jumping through hoops. Because guess what? Like the people come for the winning. If your team's terrible, I bet you might be really good with what you do between the first and second quarter. Because what happened in the first quarter, your team stunk. So anyway, it's just like one of those things that when the football's so good, sometimes the ancillary things can get lost, right?
Get lost in the sauce. Yeah.
So sorry to interrupt, but I agree with you though.
Let's not forget too, Eric. You want to talk about one of the big problems? It's the fact that, and I love Ohio State. I 100% love Ohio State. They have priced their tickets out of the fan market. A lot of your basic, younger fans who would re-energize that crowd can't afford it. Because the tickets, I mean, if you look comparatively, and you and I do this because we go to away games, Eric. If you look comparatively, what did we pay for a ticket in the front row at Purdue?
Yeah, we paid
versus
more.
Paying C-Deck prices at the top of C-Deck at Ohio State.
We paid more for parking at Purdue than the actual tickets to go to that game.
That's an issue. But in the world we live in, where money drives everything, it's not going to change.
I mean, it would be forward thinking, right? Because nobody would ever say like we could make more money if we kicked the students out and only had old people in. Because like no more student section, no more right. And I know the students pay for it, but like no more student section. We can make more money there. So like, what if you had like a young alumni section or not? And I also, I'm very cognizant of you don't have to be an alum to be an Ohio State fan. Everybody knows that. But what if you tried to do something that was like, we're going to save 5,000 seats per game that are lower priced And they are aimed at, and it doesn't have to be based on age, but they are aimed at people who typically could not afford to come. And they're not only for the bad games. They're not only for the games Ohio State's going to win 60-0. We're going to try to do something to reach out. And then the only thing that we will require of you is like, you better bring it. You know, and like that becomes, and so you put that on there. It's the bring it section. We got 5,000 seats in the bring it section. And if you're, and I don't know how you would police it. You can't have people like send in their tax forms and be like, you make too much money. You can't be in the bring it section. But you'd have to try to do something to encourage that. And then you'd show the bring it section on camera all the time, right? And you would lean into the bring it section. And it's only a little piece of it. But it's like new opportunities, and then you go in the bring it section and you interview people. I've never been here before. I'm so excited to be here. This is a once like the lunatic fringe section.
Yeah, isn't that perfect?
Herbie's gonna be mad. Herbie's gonna be mad.
That's great. No, it's the lunatic fringe section, brought to you by the Herbstrick family
Foundation. So, it's one of those things. I think it is and it's just like anything. Like they've opened the door. They reevaluated. And I was talking to the guy who was sort of in charge of it. And I asked Rob, one of the things I liked about it is it was holistic. And a lot of things that happen in college football. It's like, well, we did this and it wasn't connected to anything. And then we also did this thing and it was completely separate. They looked at everything together, right? So then you can balance new and old history and energy. You can balance all those things. Man, I think we just created the lunatic fringe section. Like, well, I think did we just do this here?
Did you?
Ross,
so somebody get Ross on the phone.
Dude, have you talked about this, or did we just come up with this on the cuff?
Let's make a call.
Yeah, I think let's get Ross on right now. Let's bring him in. We're making all these changes. The lunatic fringe section. Let's roll. I love it, dude. I love it, man. Chris, you got anything else, brother, about the Big Ten?
No.
The Big Ten is going to be as deep as it's been in my 20 years being around it.
Yeah, it is. It has really, really improved. Top to bottom, and bringing those 4 West Coast schools in, it has helped. It has helped the overall appearance and.
And somebody tell this to SEC country, because I'm tired of hearing them say how great the middle and bottom of their conference are compared to the Big Ten. For the love.
You want me to get my sword? Are you asking me to get my sword out?
For the love. Yeah, absolutely. Take that thing, go right down across the Mason-Dixon line, and start swinging.
We're swinging. I think the Big Ten is absolutely as deep as the SEC, and I think it's going to be a fascinating conversation around those like 3rd, 4th playoff teams from each conference. How a 9-3 in the SEC is evaluated against the 9-3 in the Big Ten, and I think we have to like make sure that people realize how good a 9-3 in the Big Ten might be. We talked about, I think there's 3 teams in the Big Ten that should make the playoff: Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon. And I think there's 8 more that could make the playoff that I think have reasonable playoff hopes. Washington, Illinois, Michigan, Indiana, Nebraska, Iowa, USC, and Minnesota. And that reality to me is so far removed from where it was, 07 or, 2010, when it just felt like Tressel was running roughshod through the Big Ten and like nobody else. Sometimes you felt like they weren't even trying. I was like, what are we doing here? And there's a lot of people that are trying. Illinois has so much back. Damon Williams Jr. and Denzel Boston and Jonah Coleman at Washington are great skill guys. Indiana's a real program now. They have like all-American candidates at 3 levels of their defense. Nebraska brought in a couple really big offensive line transfers and a big receiver transfer and year 2 of Dylan Raiola. Iowa got a real quarterback. Minnesota, like Coy Parrish, I think is one of the best players in the country, and I'm really in on their young quarterback, Drake Lindsey, who's in the exact same spot. Not as high a recruiting profile, but same thing as Julian Sayin and CJ Carr and Dante Moore, everybody else in the North. Good, just hasn't played. I just think there's a lot of teams to be excited about. But then here's the other thing, and this goes back to what you guys talked about. It's like, I think Washington has a chance to be pretty good. I think Illinois is going to be good. I think Minnesota is going to be good. Guess what that means?
Means you got to
They all
play them to
have
beat
they
them.
all have
Yeah.
a
each other
chance
up.
to beat Ohio State. They have a
Yep.
chance to beat Ohio State. So it's one of those things sometimes that, like, theoretically, I'm excited for the Big Ten to be deeper than it's ever been. You know who maybe isn't excited for the Big Ten to be deeper than it's ever been? James Franklin, Dan Lanning, and Ryan Day, because it just got tougher. And I think as we evaluate, is 11-1 great? Is 10-2 good enough? Those kind of things. What I think it just helps for the awareness for Ohio State fans in particular. That Washington trip, and I know your fan base knows this, and you guys know this. That is not a gimme.
No, they've won 20 home games in a row.
Illinois is not a gimme. Minnesota at home. I'm not expecting Minnesota to come to the shoe and win. I don't think Minnesota's a gimme. I think Minnesota has real talent. They have enough talent that Ohio State took their right tackle. So it's just a reality. It's just an awareness, right? And I think, again, theoretically, like, you want to be proud that your conference is good. But when your conference is good, it also makes it tougher to win.
All right, let's move on to our last topic here, guys. But before we do, we have a super chat that I've got to read to you, Doug. This is from our boy Bobby Mack. Doug is sharp. I'd rather listen to him than 95% of the ESPN Fox commentators. Serious question: does he take alpha male?
What is alpha male?
I think
is
it's
that
a
like
supplement.
a granola bar?
I think it's like a testosterone booster or something. You know.
I think it's a like a mental sharpness thing.
This is, you know how people like name their swords sometimes? Like, you name your sword. It's like a thing people do. I named this sword testosterone booster. So yeah, this is all I need. I don't need alpha. I just got this thing and I start swinging this thing around and let's go. Let's call out the SEC. Thank you, Bobby.
Alpha Brain, he said. It's called Alpha Brain. Sorry about that.
Oh,
Sorry
yeah.
about that, Bobby. But I think
I love it.
Bobby also called you the last samurai in one comment. Doug
yeah.
is the last samurai.
There's nothing. I had no idea how much I needed a sword in my life. I would recommend to anyone who has not gone the Ohio Renaissance Festival. It starts after Labor Day and goes through Thanksgiving every weekend. Lovely time, and no finer place to buy a sword.
Fantastic. All right, Doug. I wanted to pick your brain a little bit here with our final segment. I started at Ohio State in the year 2000 in journalism school. Is how I started. I didn't stay there long. They told me basically to get out of the newspaper business. So after 2 years,
Good advice.
yeah, I ended up changing my major and got a business degree. And so thankfully, the podcast has been able to scratch that itch for the journalistic side of my life that I've always enjoyed. You've been on the beat now for a while. We called you the GOAT at the beginning of this episode. I do truly mean that. Let's start here. How has sports journalism in general, and more specifically, how has the beat changed since you first started?
Boy, I can remember early on with the beat of it just being sort of like all the newspapers in Ohio, right, had their own individual. That I was doing it for the Cleveland Plain Dealer, and obviously Tim May. And when I started, it was Ken Gordon before Bill Rabinowitz took over at the Dispatch. But then there were just everybody else, the Akron Beacon Journal sent somebody, and Mansfield sent somebody, and Toledo sent somebody, and Cincinnati sent somebody, and Dayton sent somebody, and everybody sent somebody. And there was not a huge, you guys know about the internet now, right? It's kind of a big popular thing that people do. So that, it was just different. Like when I started, 11 Warriors didn't exist. I can remember when 11 Warriors started, and so that idea, like all those things have replaced all those papers that used to send people who don't send people anymore. But there's more people than ever. And it has been, I think the biggest change has been the merging of, and I don't even know what the right word is, like somebody like me and somebody like you guys, right? Like this is my full-time job. This is what I do all the time. This is how I feed my family. I am privileged to be able to do it that way. And then you guys aren't trying to pay your mortgage with this, right? Is that is that correct?
That is definitely correct.
Okay.
Yes.
It would be nice, but no.
So, but yet you care, you know a lot, you have an audience, right? And so the merging of that, and I'm not going to pretend that I was great at that early on, of understanding that or having a handle on it or interacting with it. And so the thing that I have really come around on, and Ohio State might be unique like this, is there's room for everybody. This fan base is so passionate that we can all serve. Maybe it's the same, similar segments. Maybe it's different segments of the fan base. But there's so many people to serve who care, and they all want different things. And I, at times, have been like very protective of that, or competitive with things like that. I got a lot of shouting matches. About 10 or 12 years ago, I got a lot of shouting matches with people on the beat. You can go ask them. And I'm not saying that because like I was the good guy in that. I'm not sure I don't know that I was the good guy in that. But it felt like so cutthroat a lot of the time. And I don't feel that way anymore. Maybe I've mellowed a little bit, but I just think there's room for everybody, and that I think it serves. Some people want to hang out with you guys on a Sunday night. Some people want to read what I wrote or had to say about something. Some people want to do both, which is great, right? And so it's changed so much, it's like indistinguishable. Like the thing, and I mostly talk for a living now when I started off entirely writing for a living. So the thing I think is true is that I don't know that there's a better sports beat to do it on in America. And I honestly believe that, just with the size and scope and opportunity that Ohio State football provides, which we just are all lucky to just somehow be a part of that. But I certainly think there would have been a time where I would not have come on a podcast hosted by two fans. And because I would have viewed that in a certain way. And I was wrong. And I didn't realize this yesterday, but I realized it along the way. And I do think that if there are people out there who do this like me, who this is their full-time job and are lucky to do that, but they don't understand that, I think that's a mistake in the modern world. That what the whole world, I mean, the whole way our society exists now is it provides opportunity for so many people who there was only one way to get in the front door in so many businesses and other parts of life. And now there are lots of ways to get in the door. And sometimes like my way of getting in the door of like, I got a job out of college and then I worked at a small newspaper and then I did this. I don't even know that that's the best way anymore. There's a lot of people who are just supremely talented and create their own thing and away they go. And if you're still fighting that or not embracing that as an old guy like me, you're losing, because this is the way of the world. And I think it's better. I do think it's better. I think it better serves the fans.
I have so many questions on the beat that I don't know that, Doug, you're going to be able to answer. But Chris, I'll let you
answer them. Everybody hates me already anyway. I can just say what I want to say.
So, Doug, you mentioned it. There's all different types of media out there. There's the credentialed media like yourself who, do what you do for a living. There's podcasters. There's whatever they've got going on in Ann Arbor. I'm not sure what we'll call that. But, back in 2011, you won the Football Writer Association of America Beat Writer of the Year Award. So let me ask, what practices and principles do you think really distinguish a truly great college football journalist? What makes someone a great college football journalist?
Well, I've never been a huge newsbreaker. And I wish I'd been better at it, but Tim May was always kicking my butt up and down the field for 15 years. I told this story. I told it to Tim again the other day.
Well, it's because he gets to ask 3 questions, Doug.
Hey, Urban, I just got one more. Just one more.
Quick.
Wouldn't you say It's like I was shouting the other day because, as you guys know, I've been doing Kings of the North. I have not been quite as connected to Ohio State on a daily basis. And Tim was like, we were at a news, but I was going last week, and Tim asked like 3 questions in a row, and I was saying to other people, I was saying, why do you let him do this? Like, he's half retired and he's asked 6 questions, and the people who are doing this full time can barely get a word in. Someone stop him. Somebody has to stop him. And Tim, I hope Tim is watching this. I love Tim. Somebody has to stop him at times. So you don't want to get a fight like in front of Jeremiah Smith, like it doesn't serve anybody for Tim to be like, hey, just want to ask my 5th question. And for me to say, Tim, shut your hole. That doesn't serve anything. I wouldn't do that. But someone probably should.
Mika just said, exactly. I digress.
I love Tim. Ohio State has been lucky to have Tim May document this program for as long as he has. But when all this stuff was happening with like all the stuff that was happening, and we were all doing Freedom of Information Act requests during all that stuff, I can remember getting like you just put in, you get like the phone records for like Jim Tressel's cell phone, and I can remember getting it, and you can see like the number of times that people have called or texted that number. And I was like, I found my number on there, and like whatever period it was, let's say it was 6 months. And it's like I had texted or called Jim Tressel like 11 times. And then I found like Tim's number, and Tim had texted or called Tressel like 947 times. And I was like, oh my God, I am getting destroyed on this beat. What am I doing? I was always like, I don't want to, Tress, I don't want to bother you. I just want to check. And Tim was like, oh, hell, man, I was calling Tress every day. I just want to know what's up. And I was like, that is why you're much better than I am at this job. Anymore, what you have to be is you have to be a fan's guide. And I think that's the number one thing on the internet. You have to be the person, and it's really, I think, less about breaking news. It is about a person that when stuff is happening, and once the internet stuff really started happening, there's so much stuff that's out there. And I think you want to be the person for an Ohio State fan that says, okay, I saw this, but I'm not going to trust it or completely believe it until I see it from this person. And or if this seems confusing to me, and somebody's saying this and somebody's saying that, and there's one rumor here, I want this person to shoot me straight. And I think if you can become that for fans, it's not about being first, but it's about and it really is the internet can be a dark, strange place. But it's like, I have a light and I have a machete, and I'm going to whack our way through the jungle, and I'm going to make sure, can you guys cut that out? I can't believe I said I have a machete. How did you have to tell me I have a sword? I have a sword, and we're going through the jungle. I'm going to make sure that you don't step in a hole on the path. I'm going to make sure you don't get gouged in the eye by a stick. I'm going to check if there's bugs. Follow me. And we might not get there the fastest, but we'll get there safely, and we'll have an interesting time and a fun time along the way. And so that's what I think I've tried to do the most. I always think about, like, it would be great if you could fit 1 million people in the post-game press conference, but you can't. So somehow I have been designated by these 1 million people to be their spokesperson and to ask the thing that they want to know. And I think about that a lot too. And as we get into a world where so many people have opportunities, there's still only so many people who can fit into a press box or fit into a news conference. So then if you aren't thinking about yourself as a representative, it's like you won an election. It's an unelected position. Nobody elected me. I'm just some guy who showed up. But you have to think like you were elected by the fan base. And that doesn't mean, I don't think that means being a fan. I don't think that means like always agreeing with the fans. Because I think sometimes what you have to do is like tell the fans the things that are true that maybe they don't want to hear, or tell the fans the things more often that maybe they haven't thought of, or tell the fans the things that if they had 50 hours in a week to devote themselves solely to Ohio State football, they would be able to look up the same thing or interview the same people or watch the game 4 times. But they can't because they have real jobs. So I'm doing that. I'm not doing anything that you couldn't do. I'm doing the things you don't have time to do. And then I think synthesizing information, because I don't want to waste your time. So number one is I want to have fun and make this team you love, make that experience of being a fan even more enjoyable. And then I want to shoot you straight. And then I want to help guide you through the morass and tell you what's real.
Awesome.
So you're sitting in the press conference room, and there's, I don't know, is there like 20 or 30 other beat writers there with you, depending on the game, I guess. And you get your one chance to ask a question. And how many times have you thought to yourself, my gosh, you get one chance to ask a question, and that was the question you asked? Or better yet, someone says, so-and-so that was what I was going to ask. You only came with one question to ask? Like, I have 100 questions I would like to ask. And as a sports journalist, Doug, and a doggone good one, how much does that bug you on a professional level? Because it bugs me on a fan level, and I'm not even on the beat.
Yeah, no, it does. There's an endless supply of things to be asked. So but the thing that frustrates me almost as much is when the person is asking about the thing that obviously must be asked about. But the way that they phrase the question makes it impossible to get a good answer. And it's like, okay, player X turned his ankle on the last play of the fourth quarter, and everybody knows he did. And we all saw it, and he didn't come back in on Saturday. And after the game, when we asked about player X's ankle, you said, I don't know. It just happened. We'll have to get the medical reports. So then on Tuesday, it's like, man, player X's ankle is like one of the main things. And then you get in there and somebody says, Ryan, I know you're not probably want to talk about this, and you're not going to divulge information that gives anything away. And we probably won't know anything until Saturday. But what's the situation with player X's ankle? And like, you do that sometimes. Haven't you heard questions like that? Where it's almost like the person's like afraid, like they're tiptoeing into the question. Like, I just want to make it clear that like, I feel like I have to ask this question, but I don't really want to put you on. And then it's like, well, that's our player X ankle question. And you just said 3 times in the question, you don't actually have to answer this. Right? And now all of a sudden, like that topic is sort of like off the table, because it's not just what you ask. And I've gotten in fights about this. It's how you ask it. And sometimes you need to ask a question with a long explanation, because I always try to think about how the person's going to answer it and how can I cut their legs out. I'm going to put the cliches that they want to say in the question so they can't use that in their answer. Right? So sometimes your question has to be long, because like, I know your instinct is to give me a cliche. So I'm going to acknowledge the cliche in the question, so you have to go straight to actual stuff. Or sometimes the question needs to be 5 words and you need to put them on the spot and see how they respond. And just say, Ryan, 3rd and 8, why did you call that? As opposed to, you know, I know you probably thought they were going to blitz you there, and obviously the wind was blowing and you wanted to run the ball because you weren't sure, right? It's like, why did you call that? And so like, I think so much, not just about what I want to ask, but how I want to ask it to create the greatest opportunity to get a meaningful answer. And I feel like sometimes people just show up and be like, I guess I'll ask about somebody's ankle. And it's like, okay, there are 45 different ways to ask about that ankle. And the way you choose to ask it is going to determine how all these millions of people who care whether they actually get information about it or not. So please give it 1 minute of thought, because it is your job. And I hope that you didn't show up at the news conference and as you walked in the door of the team room, that's the first time you thought about what you wanted to ask. I hope that is not the case, but I think sometimes for some people it is.
Chris, you got any other questions about the beat or about sports journalism? I've got 100 I would ask. So I want to make sure I give you the opportunity.
So I think the one that everyone who aspires to do this would want to know is simply, what advice would you give to someone who is an aspiring sports journalist and hopes to cover college football at the level that you have achieved in your career?
Like it's just, and everybody knows, it's like there just used to be such a more clear path. Like you could do this, and then you could do this, and then you could do this. Being original matters. And that is not just, and also a lot of people, if you really want to do it journalistically, I think a lot of people just want to give takes. And I get it. I wave a sword around. Like I like giving takes too. But give and takes is not what's going to separate you probably. Like original ideas and original reporting is how you separate yourself. And so that applies everywhere. So if you start out and you do original reporting on high school sports and do some really interesting stuff, that translates, So it's difficult, but I just don't know. And this is hard because one thing is like sometimes people just have it, right? Mm-hmm. Especially sort of in the YouTube podcast world. And you kind of, sometimes you can see it and it's like, wow, that person did not really do any original reporting or any original, and they just kind of came out and gave the takes that everybody else was giving, but they were super good at it. And they got famous. And I don't even know what that, like, you just have that. So sometimes it's like, hey, how can it's like, I don't know, be supremely talented for whatever reason. And that happens. But I also think that sometimes you have to recognize, like, if maybe you're not that. Few of us are. I'm not that. So then it's like, okay, how can you think differently? And I think you've got to think differently because there's a lot of people everywhere doing the same kind of stuff. And I think it's less about being sensational and more about like trying to give something to people that they can't get 20 other places. And it's because you thought of it a different way. And then maybe you put some work into talking to people about it or researching it. And I still think there's opportunities there, but also it's a grind and it's tough. And I don't know, I'm like a caveman. Like the way I did it, it's so much more difficult. In some ways, there's so many more opportunities to do it, but in a lot of other ways, it's so much more difficult. I'm not even sure that my advice has any meaning because the way I did it, I don't know is the way to do it anymore.
I got one more question, and then Bobby Mack, I'll ask your super chat question to Doug. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate you. So I have a good friend who runs a very successful YouTube channel for Notre Dame. And he has shared with me that he was contemplating getting on the Notre Dame beat and went to the school put on like a preseason media Q&A. I guess the best way to call that. And basically gave the media members the do's and don'ts, the rundown of here's what to expect, here's what you can ask, how you can ask it, etc. And he decided, I'm going to be more successful sticking to what I'm doing now than doing that. Does Ohio State have something similar that they do with the media members where you are given criteria on what you are allowed to ask, or how to ask it, when you're allowed to report on things, when you're not allowed to report on things? I would like some clarity on that as a fan.
No. I've never been told by anybody at Ohio State to not ask something outside of when particularly controversial things were happening. And they might say, like, right before a news conference starts, like, we're not talking about that. Like, he can't, if it's a legal matter or that kind of thing, nothing generally across the board. And I have never come close to feeling threatened that my credential would be revoked or that I would face any consequences as it relates to access based on anything that I reported or anything that I asked. So I'm almost actually surprised to hear what you're describing at Notre Dame, because I have not. Now, all places, right? It's like, if we're going to let you watch practice, and like Ohio State doesn't let you watch practice much other than like the first 3 at camp. It's like, and I get this sometimes, especially, and I do think, and now that when college athletes weren't getting paid and everybody else, like pros, were getting paid, I do think there's like, is a difference. There is a difference in how you handle things there. Now that college athletes are getting paid, I think that changes some, but I don't think it changes entirely. But for instance, the idea that like you're at practice, you're allowed to be there, and there's not that many times anymore where like Ohio State's at practice, like media's at practice, but fans aren't. And like if somebody gets hurt and they haven't even had a chance to like call that kid's mom yet, and you're like running on Twitter to be like, oh, this guy got hurt. It's like if they say like, well, don't report that. It's like, what? I kind of get that, right? That's just like a, like they're not hiding something. They're just like trying to treat this kid as a human being and like not a commodity, right? So, but other than that, I do think, and I know, of course, every fan base gets frustrated with this kind of thing. I think Ohio State, for how big of a beat it is, how high profile the program is, the fact that it has had numerous controversial things happen over the years, certainly fewer in recent times. I think the access Ohio State gives to journalists is excellent. And there are times like where it feels like Michigan, for instance, is like putting players on a radio interview with like the play-by-play guy, and like then you just are reporting on a radio interview, but you didn't get to ask the guy questions yourself, right? Or that it's much more protective that we get Ryan Day on a regular basis. I've never felt like there's anything we couldn't ask Ryan Day, that we get the coordinators on a regular basis. There are plenty of programs, I think, including Alabama, like, and you go to bowl games with these guys, postseason games, and the bowl games and the postseason games have requirements based that the bowl or the playoff has a requirement for the access. And there are ravenous reporters that'll say like for Georgia, I think that like when Ohio State played Georgia in semifinal and Todd Monken was the Georgia offensive coordinator, and I was so interested because Todd Monken had been the Browns offensive coordinator and I was doing Cleveland stuff, and I was like, I want to ask Todd Monken about the Browns. And all the Georgia reporters were like, we haven't talked to Todd Monken since the preseason. Like, we can't wait to talk to Todd Monken. And I was like, what? Like, we've talked to Ohio State's offensive coordinator like 5 times. Or we talked to Jim Knowles every week last week, right? And the idea that there are big time programs where you talk to the coordinator once in the preseason and you don't talk to him again until the postseason, that is not unusual. And that is not close to the reality at Ohio State. So I don't know if Ohio State fans know that. I think people like me, people like Tim May, people like Austin Ward and Bill Landis, and people who have been around the beat a very long time, if Ohio State ever tried to curtail access that way, I think we would fight as much as we could fight. But like at some point, it's like, well, they can do whatever they want to do. We have good access to the coaches and players of Ohio State football.
Excellent. Bobby Mack, we're going to end the show here with this question. This is a great question. Thank you, Bobby Mack, for the $5 super chat. Doug, who will be your breakout Buckeye this year that no one expects? And what is your Buckeye hot take? Go nice little circle back to the hot take comment.
Yeah.
Good one.
And again, I'm going to be honest. And again, like you guys know this, like what's the Kings of the North stuff. I have not been an everyday Ohio State person as much as I have been at many other times. And I think I'm going to wind up being around Ohio State more this year. They're the defending national champions. I still have visions. I think it was spring practice 23. Is this right? Of just watching Kenyatta Jackson and being like, that looks different, man. I'm telling you, I think that looks different. He seems like he has more like bend off the edge than a lot of other guys that have come through here, right? I don't know that like Jack and JT even were particularly bendy necessarily, right? That like they were more, they'd maybe run through you than go around you. And I just thought, oh my gosh. Cause like Myles Garrett is like a gymnast. That guy is so bendy, like having been to Browns practice and stuff. And I was like, man, Kenyatta Jackson just looks like he brings a little something different. And here we are. And so like, there's a part of me that wonders if that's just sort of been hiding in there, because there's a lot of guys in the country who would not have like beaten out JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer. I mean, what are you talking about? Right. And so it just sort of happened. And what if that is like, oh, no, yeah, I know that's really good. That's like 11 and a half sacks good. That's like NFL paying attention good. Like I am very, very curious with Kenyatta Jackson if that might be the case. And what is my Buckeye hot take? What is my Buckeye hot take? I'm trying to think what my hottest Buckeye hot take might be, because there's like a lot of stuff. I had the great privilege to have like a very nice conversation with Arvell Reese the other day after practice, because as a Glenville player, working for Cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer, I did so many, Glenville high school stories that I always I was covering that for that Cleveland audience. I just covered the Glenville guys so much. And I just think it's so cool to have like a Glenville guy, like helping reestablish that Glenville connection. And what a charming young man Arvell Reese is. But like for me to be like, hot take, Arvell Reese is gonna be good. I think the train's out of the station on that one, right? Is that like that? I don't think that is an ice cold take. It's like, yeah, thanks, Doug. Arvell Reese is gonna be good. Way to know your team. So what is my hot take? Help me be hot. I want to be hot. I want to be as hot.
Here's my hot take. Here's my hot take.
Give me yours.
I think Brian Hartline, everything he has touched has turned to gold since he has come back to Ohio State. And there's a lot of people questioning, especially on the national level, that Brian Hartline, can he do this job? Not only do I think Brian Hartline becomes a great offensive coordinator, I think Brian Hartline is going to be one of the better offensive coordinators we have seen at Ohio State in a long time.
Oh, wow. That is pretty hot.
Yeah.
That is pretty hot.
I have a ton of confidence in Brian. Everything he's done, recruit, develop, give interviews, has been excellent. Why are we doubting that he won't be able to do this too? Right. That's my hot take.
That's good. All right. What's yours, Wilds? You got one?
I do. He may not win it, but Caleb Downs is going to New York as a Heisman finalist.
Oh, wow. Like those cases are there for you to be like the propulsive force of a really good team. That's like the Aiden Hutchinson case, right? That like Ohio State's awesome, and as great as Jeremiah Smith is, that I voted for Manti Te'o over Johnny Manziel because I thought Notre Dame was a defense first team, and he was the quarterback of the defense. And I was like, well, if this was an offense first team, I'd vote for the quarterback. So if it's a defense first team, why wouldn't I vote for the quarterback of the defense of an awesome team to win the Heisman? So if Caleb Downs is like the quarterback of the defense and doing things that are rare, that's a really good one. I am not all the way there with Hartline, only because the things that we ask of coaches, like the skill sets are so different. The things that are required of you to be a great recruiter and to relate to players in a great way and to instruct them on the field in a great way, and then to like get in a room and scheme stuff up. They're such different skill sets. Like, you really think about like the great coaches, like, how are you great at all of this? Like, one's your heart, one's your body, one's your brain. Like, it's a lot to be good at. And so I can just remember, like, with Day is just like, he did it one time for me, or he just had it in his office. He just like doodles plays on napkins, right? He's just like, if he's on the phone with somebody, instead of drawing, like, doesn't everybody have their little doodle guy they draw? I have a little doodle guy I draw, right? Does everybody have a doodle guy they draw?
Does your doodle guy have a sword in his hand?
Not yet, but he does now, thanks to you for reminding me, like, what have I been doing? I was not have a sword in his hand. So when your doodle guy is a play, Ryan Day's doodle guy is a play on a napkin. That doesn't mean you have to be a napkin doodler to be a great play caller. But Ryan Day is definitively that. I don't know enough for sure about Heartline. Heartline is such a relationship guy. And he's such a motivator guy, and he's such a culture guy, and he's such a build your room guy and compete and bring out the best of each other. That's different than doodling, than drawing up a play. So I don't know. Now, I also think, like, you can be a fantastic head coach without being a doodler. So I think a lot of the qualities that Heartline has shown, no doubt about it, would serve him very well as a head coach. It's just a different kind of skill set that I'm not sure about offensive coordinator. I don't know for sure. I do need to see that. I'm very curious to see that. I'm not saying that I'm doubting it. I'm saying that, like, I'm not going to be all the way there until I see it, because I don't know about it. But that's a good hot take, Boggs. That's a good hot take. I have always said this, and I'll be curious to see. This will be my last one. I'll go out on a down note, get everybody mad at me. I have always thought that Ohio Stadium is not that great of a home field advantage.
I agree.
Agreed.
And maybe that's not a hot take, but it's gigantic. And I do think the expectations are so high at Ohio State. Like, if a visiting team comes in and gets the lead, I think sometimes you can feel the crowd go, ugh.
Oh, yeah.
And either get mad or tight or frustrated. And that it's like, and then very quickly it is like, let's go, guys. And I'm not saying that the fans shouldn't do that. I'm just saying sometimes when people are like, when you're thinking about home field advantages, I think how high the expectations are at Ohio State leads to it not being as good. Because sometimes if you go into Iowa City or you go into Madison, Wisconsin, and the stadium's not quite as big, so it feels more on top of you, right? And there's just like certain aspects like that. And then they're all like, the whole time they're like, come on, guys. Because like nobody came in that, and I've only really related to them through Ohio State games. So no one's thinking like that they're actually going to beat Ohio State, but they're like, come on, guys, come on. You need us. But every time in Ohio, I'll leave you guys with the last question. Every single time an Ohio State fan walks into Ohio Stadium, that fan expects the Buckeyes to win. Every single, there has never been in our lifetimes, has an Ohio State fan ever walked into Ohio Stadium and been like, I don't think they're winning today? Ever. And that happens in other stadiums all the time. And I think that affects the vibe of the stadium a little bit. So now, would you want to change that? High standards are wonderful. High standards are opportunities. They are not burdens. The idea that somehow being skilled and talented and hardworking and creating expectations is a burden is crazy to me. And that's one of the other things, like going back to like news conference questions, when people turn like, oh, everyone's expecting you guys to be pretty good. Like, what kind of burden is that? It's like, what are you talking about? A burden is like, everyone thinks we're going to be 3-9. Dear God, I hope we can win 6 games. That's a burden. Like, it's not a burden of like, too many good players. Everyone thinks you're good. It's like, yeah, we are good. We're going to try our best. Isn't it awesome that we have this opportunity? I hate those kind of questions. And then I also hate silver lining questions, because sometimes losses just suck. And I don't think now, again, it's like we could do another hour and a half on this. Like, did Ohio State need to lose to Michigan to have that playoff run happen? Did they find something because of that loss? I'm like, they should have beaten Michigan and still did the thing they did. Like, I don't know why you have to lose. You're supremely talented. So, like, I hate silver linings. Sometimes life just stinks. Why are we looking? It's like, oh, aren't you glad that this player got hurt? So then it's like, no, I'm not. No one's happy about that. That sucked. So I don't like silver lining, and I don't like talent being a burden.
And that's why he's the best, everybody, because he took the last question and he circled back around to the first question about expectations. So, my friends, Doug Lesmerises, Kings of the North.
Oh, my God. We did it. We went over 2 hours.
We did.
Have you guys gone over 2 hours before? Is this the longest one, or you guys go over 2 hours a lot?
We go over an hour and a half a lot, but we've gone over 2 hours a couple, I think, maybe.
Yeah, a couple times. We've been doing this.
I think when we had Ryan on one time, we may have went that long.
Yeah. And we also do live watches during the games sometimes if we're not at the games, and those can go a while. So, yeah. Nice. So, but yeah, it's the first time to have you on 2 hours. That feels right, Doug. I mean, that just
does feel right. It just feels right.
It does. Everybody, thank you so much for all of you in the chat. We appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for all of the super chats tonight. Those who did, we appreciate that as well. Doug, once again, tell everybody, maybe they're catching this for the first time. They're just thinking, who is this guy? Tell everybody where they can find you, man.
Yeah, so Kings of the North is currently available on YouTube. It's available wherever you listen to podcasts. I would also we're still trying to figure out, the Bill Andis and I had done like a Kings of Columbus, Ohio State focus show. And we're still interested in something like that. So just stay tuned on that. And I think I would just say, if you really want to know what's up, at Doug Lesmerises on Twitter, DOUGLES, Lesmerises is how it's spelled, LESMERISES. And that way you can keep up with whatever we're doing.
Fantastic, Doug. This was so much fun, man. And I really do. I'm honored, and I appreciate the fact that you joined us this evening, man. Thank you so much.
I put on a collared shirt for you guys.
Yes, you
I'm
did.
Sweating through it right now. I hope you appreciate that.
I am in this nice lightweight T-shirt
with cartoon characters on it.
Cartoons and characters on the front.
If I had a cartoon shirt of my own face, I would never take it off. So I respect what you're bringing here.
Fantastic. It's been great, everybody. Tomorrow night's call-in show, 8:00 Eastern. I will be doing the tomorrow night's call-in show. Chris and I are flip-flopping this week. Tomorrow, the Wizard of Boggs makes his return tomorrow night, 8:00 Eastern. Chris is already. There may or may not be a theme song tomorrow.
No song, please.
Oh, there might be. There might be a Wizard of Boggs song. It's just It's called a tease. It's called a tease. Or in Chris's terms, you just ruined it all for me. We have a good time. We're having a good time. Thank you so much, Doug. I appreciate you so much, man. And we're going to end the show like we always do. Till next time, be kind to one another. I owe someone's OH. Sing Carmen, Ohio with all your heart. Till next time, you all know what to do. OH!
I owe.
Go Bucks.